Welcome back everyone to Aussie Scrapper. Today I am doing collaboration with Anna from Grace Islander, who is celebrating her first year anniversary with YouTube, and she is doing a video a day. I will link her channel in the description below so you can go and check out what she does. Now what she's doing is she's having a collaborator every day for the month of July and with a challenge. Now today's my turn and our challenge is stamping. So I'm really keen to see what Anna does with the stamping. Anyway, I'm just letting you know that there is a prize for US residents only, unfortunately, but don't let that stop you from participating if you're not in the US, because there will be other prizes for anyone else internationally. So I will also link to the information to if you want to participate in the description as well, and have fun, and please check out Anna's channel. Thank you. Now you would have seen earlier that I showed you that I'm using the As a Studio templates, and basically what it is, it's like a stencil that helps you to do multiple photo layouts, and you can have them in all sorts of different patterns. And it's really hard to explain, but if you were watching it, there's a stencil, and then you can just trace around it and you can get all sorts of lovely effects, and you're only really limited by your imagination. So anyway, here I am. I'm just playing with the placements of my photo, and these photos are of my sister with my little girl at my son's 5th birthday party, I think it was. So yeah, I'll just leave this bit in. All you have to do when you're using the stencil is basically just slide the photos underneath and then move them around so that you can then go in with a pen or pencil and just mark out where you're going to cut out, which you'll see all that in a minute anyway, which is the only thing like me, you want to see things visually, not someone talking through it. So let's move on. And I'm just using painter's tape to hold my photos in place, and I do ask you to please excuse my fluffy bathrobe. I was actually sick with the flu, and for about 6 days I did not create anything. I just was not up to it. So I felt a little bit better today, and even though I didn't leave the house and I didn't get out of my pajamas, I wanted to create. I missed scrapbooking. 6 days of no scrapping was a long time for me, so I was really sick. But anyway, moving right along, as you can see, I've using the template, I've now got my first row done, and I quite like the look of that. So I've got that there, and I will move on to the second row. As you will see, I just use a pen to trace along the template where I want to cut, and you didn't see it, but I used my scissors to cut around, and that's how it's looking so far. I'm just making a quick outline of my photos so that when I start my stamping, I don't waste my time stamping where it's going to be covered up by the photos. And I'm just numbering the photos with a corresponding number to where they're going to be sitting on my cardstock, just to make it easier to put everything exactly in the right space. And I do know that I'm going to mat it, so I'm just quickly trimming off some of the paper so that I can mat it later on when I pick my cardstock. And going through my stamps. In the end, I'll end up using a tiny little stamp that looks like a tulip. And I will be stamping that with some Versamark ink, which is what I'm doing now. And then I'm going in with some white embossing powder. It's some fine white embossing powder, so I sprinkle that on. I get my heat gun out and melt it. It's really hard to see on this cardstock because it's like white on white, but you'll see later on that it actually turns out quite nice. So still embossing here. You can sort of make out that faint outline. But anyway, it's all embossed here. I'm trying to I hope you can see some of that. It's a bit hard. But I go in with some worn lipstick, squeezed lemonade and tumbled glass, my distress inks that I choose. And I start off with the squeezed lemonade, and all I'm doing is just putting it in random spots throughout the page where I think I want a spot of yellow. I don't really have a method. I just plonk it down wherever I feel like it, really. I don't really think about it much. I just sort of want bits of yellow everywhere, and I do that. So because I'm trying to pull in from the photos, and the teacups have got yellow, so that's where I picked my yellow. And now I'm going in with the tumbled glass, and I picked that because one of the photos has got the blue tunnel that they came out of, my sister and my little girl. So I picked that blue for that reason, to picked it from the photo, really. And of course, worn lipstick is to represent the pink that my little girl's wearing. And I wanted a bit of a feminine page for this, and the photos were just so busy that you see what I do later on. But I'm alternating between the blue, the yellow and the pink, and just working out where everything's going to go. No real reason where I put things. It's just was a personal preference, and I was just sort of going, yep, a bit of pink here, a bit of yellow here, a bit of blue here. I didn't really think it over too much. I just went around and putting things, and then in some areas I thought that I needed more colour, so yeah, I just added a bit more wherever I felt it was needed. Anyway, I won't bore you with all this. What I'm going to do is, you get the idea of what I'm doing. I'm just going in with all the different distress inks. So I think I'll just cut to the end product. No one wants to see you do all this over and over and over again all over the page. It gets a bit boring, don't you think? Anyway, leave me a comment if there are some of you that want to see beginning to end, because I always think you've seen it once, you don't want to see the whole thing. Anyway, let me know what you really. And there's the finished product. So what I'm doing now is I'm just mounting my photos on some foam because I wanted to add a bit more dimension to them. And then I will decide that because the background is so busy and the photos are too busy, that I want to give the photos a white border. So I bring back that template that I originally used, and I'm repositioning the photos where they were and just outlining it with a pencil. And once again, I am using painter's tape to help position my photos and keep them in place while I just outline them. So then I get my scissors and I cut all around them. And I quite like the white border that it gives it. So I'm going to put my photos and just check how it all looks. Bring in my background. Yes, quite like that. So I go in with some double-sided tape and adhere all my photos down permanently now. No changing my mind. Well, I could, but I don't. And I do trim it down a bit because I just thought that the border was just a bit too big, so a bit of a trim. Okay, I'm just repeating the process all over again here, just adhering my photos down, then I go in with the template, cut it out with the scissors, and what I do next is, because I don't like those raw white edges, I just get a black marker and I trace around all those raw white edges that I detest so much. There you go. There, I'm doing all that. And what did I do after this? Oh yes, I decided that I wanted to frame my title, so I'm going through my Simple Stories chipboard frames that I bought from the Scrapbook Cottage at Castle Hill. And I do decide on that one that says hello there. And I'm using the Creative Alphabet stickers from Kmart. And then I will go in with and choose some words from the Tim Holtz Idealogy Chit Chat that I got at Amanda's at Mogo. So permanently adhering everything down, and then I decide that the background is way too bright, so I'm using the dry brush technique where I just get some gesso on my brush, put it down on my page and just smudge it with my finger, and that just tones everything right down. And I quite like the softer feel that created for my photos, and that the colours weren't so in your face. So then I permanently stick that photo down, and I do exactly the same thing to the next lot of photos. So you can always do that. If you make something too bright, you just don't stress about it too much. Just go in with the dry brush technique and put your gesso on, and that tones everything right down. And you can still see the colour, it's just not in your face as much. So I do that to the whole layer and then glue everything down. Now I want to create some definition between my photos and the page. So I'm using a Faber Castell watercolor pencil, and the color is Paynes grey. And then I'm activating it with just my water brush, and I smudge it with my finger, and then I also smudge it a bit with a baby wipe, a wet baby wipe, just to create that separation between the page and the photos, those outlines. And I quite like that, so I do that to all 3 sets of photos. I don't think I show it all. Yes, I just go straight to the end there. And then for some reason I decide, yes, I like it, but it's just a bit too dark. Even though I didn't use black and I used grey, it was still a bit too dark for my photos. So once again, I use the dry brushing technique where I go in with a smaller brush this time and just tone that grey down. And then I'm really happy with how this layout is finally starting to look. As you can see, I'm doing this all on the next day because I'm not wearing my fluffy robe anymore. I've actually had the energy to get dressed that day. So that's good. Anyway, toning it all down, and I love that. Here's a close-up for you. Now I'm going to start working on my embellishment clusters, and for some unknown reason, I don't know if it was because I was sick or what, but I was very undecisive, and it took me a good hour and a half before I settled on my embellishment. So you're lucky I edited most of this out. Now on that left-hand corner there, I'm just working on there. That lands up staying how it is there. That came together quite quickly. And that little blue sticker there just says moments to remember. Now these die cuts here are from the reject store that I'm using here, and that butterfly does stay there, and so does that flower. So I'm now working on my cluster up the top there and just permanently adhering everything down with some foam. And I also added some foam to the butterfly, and I'm going to use that flower to cover up that hello, which I wasn't really liking, and that does stay there permanently. So back to my stamping, I've decided I'm going to make a tag, and that oval tag says, "Let us keep our greatest moments close to our hearts." So I made a tag, cutting it out now because I want straight lines and I'm not very good with the scissors. Adding a little hole, and I will use my shimmer. These are some shimmer paints that watercolor paints that I got from Spotlight. They were about $6, I think, and I quite like working with them. You've probably seen me use them a few times now. So just doing my tag, and I'm going to re-stamp that saying on oval shape saying, inking the raw white edges and gluing it just on top there. I did add foam to that second stamped image that I did, just to give it a bit of pop. Now I'm adding foam to the next little title there, and all that says is hugs and kisses. So getting rid of those raw white edges and going to adhere down my little tag I made. And this is where I get a bit rough and I break it, and I get so upset, but I think, no, I'm not going to start over again. I just find one of these flare buttons from the reject store and I put it right on over, and it works a treat. So now I'm just finally adding the mat to my page, and I do go with that, trim down some of those leaves, and that's the end product, and I'm really happy with it. So thank you for watching, thank you for supporting me, until I see you again. And if you haven't already done so, if you want, you can subscribe. Thank you.